She turns around and says, "Oh, okay, so they might not be able to fly out with you today. My cats aren't coming with us. It's just game over." All right, quick little review time for Turkish Airways and our experience taking our pets on board. Now, we flew out from Australia through Turkish Airways, which is the only airline that flies long-haul flights with pets in it, especially from Australia. There might be in Europe, things like that, but when it comes to Australia, we're quite funny when anything is involved with agricultural kind of things leaving the country. So the process itself is a headache. I will say that, but this is probably going to be a whole other video where I'll mention all the process and get into it. But for right now, I wanted to speak about the experience specifically with Turkish Airways. So now we had booked to keep them in the cabin, and we were super stressed because in the fine writing, whatever they call it, the policies and all that and the terms and conditions, they talk about how if someone says that they're allergic to cats or whatever the case may be, you might need to put them in the undercarriage or whatever you call it, in the cargo. So that was stressful, not knowing, kind of like arriving and hoping for the best, especially because the containers, the luggage thing that you need to put the cats in, if they do go in the cargo, is a tough case. It's like hard plastic, and it's like not squishy like the ones that you take them in the cabin with. So what we did is we bought collapsible ones so that we could easily bring them to the airport and figure it out then. We bought 2 collapsible ones, one bigger one smaller one, because we got a bigger cat and a smaller cat, and we went and hoped for the best. So once we got to the airport, we went to the check-in, and this is at Melbourne Airport. Now, it's very recent that they made it an option to even bring pets on long-haul flights. So for everyone, it was a pretty new thing, and it didn't seem like they had done it before. Now, we got to the desk, we checked in, all of that. You can't pre-check in when you do have pets, so you'll have to go to the counter, which is what we did, and we had all the paperwork. I'm talking everything under the sun that it said, from the Australian government paperwork, the vet paperwork, the paperwork that Spain needs to allow them into the country, as well as the Turkish Airlines paperwork. So everything that had been listed, we had checked all the boxes, we had everything. So we arrived, we checked them in, and the lady comes up to us and she talks about how, oh, you need a certificate of ownership. And I'm like, oh, this is the first I've heard of this. And she's like, yeah, you know, when you purchased the pets or adopted the pets, you would have got a certificate of some sort. Now, this paperwork wasn't mentioned on anything, whether it was the fine print, that's the word, I found it. No one said I needed this paperwork. So it's super stressful. Now, she explained to me what they looked like, blah, blah, blah. Luckily, I was able to go through my emails and find the certificates that I needed. Cool. I hand those over. I'm like, yep, no problem. Finally, here you go. She asks, are they on any sedatives or any medication? And I'm like, no sedatives, but they're on calming medication, but they're supplemental. The vet told us this is what they should take, just because it's not too serious. It's not, it's kind of like over the counter, and it's just kind of like a catnip-based thing. She turns around and says, oh, okay, so they might not be able to fly out with you today. And I'm just like, sorry, what? We have no contingency plan if this was the case. I'm like, wait, what? Nothing is stated on any of the fine print in anywhere that they can't be on anything. And she says, I'm gonna go check, but yeah, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that they can't, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, all right. And before she goes, I'm like to her, okay, so you understand that I've read all the fine print. Could you just show me where it says that, 1, I need a certificate of ownership, and 2, where it says they can't be on anything. I'd just like to see it, just for my own peace of mind. Did I miss it? Like, am I an idiot? And she goes, No, it doesn't say that they can't take anything, but it doesn't say that they can. And I just kind of went, I'm not sure if you're serious. I don't think that's how anything works, but okay. It's like, I'm just gonna go check. She either really didn't know what she was doing, or she was just being a pain in my butt for no reason. So she goes and checks, and she comes back and she's like, oh, okay, so yep, they can board today. It's not a problem. Okay, so why not say, I'm not sure about what's going on. I'll just go check. Why stress me out the way you did? Made it feel like, yep, my cats aren't coming with us. It's just game over. Anyway, so finally she comes back, she ticks them off. Now that was one stress over, and now was the stress of seeing how well they behaved, or if they were calm enough for the plane. And that was just on more personal note for me and Andrew is, you know, obviously we care about our cats and we want them to be okay. So the whole time I was kind of like, you know, oh no, they're fine. But I was stressing deep down inside, and that's what I do a lot of. And then when we got on the plane, they very quickly got really used to it. So they were confident enough to come out of their little bags and all the rest of it. Now, I will say this, I have watched heaps of videos where people take them out of their bag, blah, blah, blah. But we found out that apparently you're not supposed to. And it was just like one flight attendant that came and told us, like, you know, sorry, they've got to be in the bag. But we did secretly take them out just because it's a 24-hour flight. They can't just stay in that bag the whole entire time. It's pretty full on. Now, another thing I should mention is the bag requirement. So the bag requirement for in cabin, keeping the pet with you, is something like 23, 30, 40 centimeters, right? So 23 width and 30 length and then 40 height or something like that, right? So something that they will ask about is if the cat can stand up. Now, these are their requirements in terms of how big the bag is, and that's like essentially the exact size that we got. But then at the airport, they asked us if the cats can stand in it. Well, obviously not. You haven't made it big enough for them to stand in. Anyway, so what I did, I'm just like, yeah, they can stand in it, and I just flipped them over, and then in the long ways, that's not the way they'll be sitting, but they can stand in it. But just for peace of mind, like I said, you're not meant to take them out of the bag, but you can kind of sneak it. They're not around all the time. And generally, even on the smaller flight that we took from Istanbul to Malaga, where everyone was there and we didn't have the space that we had in the long haul flights, we did still, like, I had them on my lap and we can unzip it and have their head pop out. So that's kind of the thing that you got to deal with. It's not ideal. We had their leashes as well. During the long haul flights, we had their leashes like knotted onto the tray so that they don't go anywhere. And then we just hooked them on. And yeah, it's just kind of like one of those to your discretion sort of things. We weren't told off by anyone except just one flight attendant. And she's just like, oh, sorry, you can't let the cats out of the bag, pun intended. Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind as well. It is a smaller bag, and unfortunately you can't have those like cushy big ones like the backpacks and all that, because they need to fit perfectly under your under the seat in front of you. So when we boarded the flight, luckily there were so many empty seats, and you would have seen it in the video if you've watched it. It was an empty flight. Essentially, once they closed those doors, we looked around and we're like, there's no one here, which meant we were able to really get a good night's rest on both legs. So we flew from Melbourne to Singapore, from Singapore to Istanbul, from Istanbul to Malaga. So for the first 2 legs, we were able to completely sleep in our own kind of rows, and a lot of people did that too, so it made it really easy, and the cats just remained under our seats for most of the time. Aragon, our black cat that you would have maybe seen, he is a bit of more stressy, but he finally got acclimatized and he ended up snuggling in with me secretly while I slept, which was really nice to have, and it felt like we were home. So in that sense, that was great. The other thing was the flight food. So as soon as you board, you know, everyone's walking past you, all the staff, and you see a chef with a full chef hat. So that was really cool. The food was fantastic. Every single thing we ordered was so good, such high quality, and we actually would like easily order that and eat that again. So from the main meals, the appetizers, the desserts, everything was really, really nice. There was something that was interesting, which is they sold wine, of course, on the, well, not sold it, it's part of your ticket and you can just get it unlimited. But they offer you Turkish wine versus French wine. So that was really cool to be able to taste like a local, a Turkish wine. It is very strong though, and it tasted more like church wine, if that makes sense. If you've ever had church wine, that's what it tasted like. So that was interesting. Then finally, when we got to our last leg in Malaga, that was a smaller plane, so it's not exactly the same kind of vibe space-wise. We didn't have all that space, but the food was equally as good, and we were really happy with that. Now, getting to Malaga airport, from the way that the consulate website makes bringing cats in from a non-Euro country, it's really scary. Like, there are so many things that they want you to do and fill out and all these things. We needed like a certificate to say that, you know, they didn't get off into Turkey in transit, things like that. But when we got there, we handed over the paperwork, we brought the cats out, they just like scanned their microchips, and he came back within like 5 minutes and he's like, there you go, all good, bye. What we found is that the airline, or like the airport of Malaga airport, everyone seemed to really like pets, which was really nice. And everyone was like, oh, you've got cats. And yeah, it was a really nice experience to be like welcomed like that, especially when you've like had that long flight and you're just wondering, are they even gonna let your cats in the country at this point? But yes, that was super easy. And we were really wondering like how that process goes. But if you've ever been to Malaga airport, at least when we went, it wasn't busy at all. The time that we flew wasn't busy, which I think like added to the pleasure of it all, is that it wasn't peak, so there wasn't long lines or anything. A really simple process. It's just like a scan. You don't have to like take off your shoes and belts and all the rest of it. It's just really simple. And you just put in your luggage and they scan it through. And obviously the cats, you just carry on. They didn't even want the cats. They didn't do any of that. So that was really easy. But that kind of summarizes the flight experience that we had. I would say that just know your facts before you board and like stand strong in what you know, because if you have an experience like I did, and obviously we were one of the first few people that were doing a long haul flight with pets, it was stressful. And if I didn't know my facts, I would have probably broken down and just gone, oh, okay, well, I guess, you know, we're screwed. But yeah, just know your facts, really do your research, read the fine print, print it out if you must, and just like highlight things so you can go, no, this is what it says, and just stay strong within that. I'm sure the process will get better the more people do it, but yes, it is a bit stressful in that sense. Other than that, Turkish Airways was fantastic. Istanbul airport was fantastic. I would say if there was any complaint I wanted to make, it would be, I guess, the friendliness. Like, we've only ever flown with like Qatar Airways or Singapore Airlines, so I feel like they're a lot more bubbly, and yeah, their just general attitude is a lot more smiley, but we didn't really get that on Turkish Airlines. But not to say anyone was rude, everyone was lovely and they catered to you, but they just weren't as upbeat. So maybe just going into it, don't feel like they're being rude and it's totally fine. But yeah, other than that, it was as smooth sailing as we could have asked for, because there is a lot that can go wrong when traveling with pets. But luckily they're happy and healthy and they got adjusted really quick. And especially if your cats are and they're indoor cats like ours that don't really see a whole lot of the rest of the world, just know that there is hope and that they can very well adjust, because even our long car drive all the way from Malaga up to 𝗪𝗲, which was like an hour and something or just under, was completely fine. They were completely silent and really calm, and it's just that initial adjustment that takes place, and then after that they seem pretty good. But thank you for watching, and hopefully this has been as helpful as it would have been for me if I had found a video like this originally. But yeah, good luck with traveling with pets. Good luck traveling anywhere with Turkish Airlines. It was a good experience all in all. And yeah, that's it. See you next time.